Hey there, Bailey here again. So this is vlog number 3, and today we're going to be discussing if lethal injection really is as humane as we think it is. So when it comes to the death penalty, the primary method of execution that's utilized by all the states is, well, lethal injection. So jurisdictions use a variety of protocols, typically using 1, 2, or 3 drugs. Now most 3-drug protocols use either an anesthetic or sedative followed by a drug to paralyze the individual, and finally, a drug to stop the heart. Now, while the 1 and 2 drug protocols typically use an overdose of anesthetic or sedative to induce death. Now, when lethal injection was originally legalized in the 1970s, it was viewed as the safe, reliable, and of course, humane way to put an individual to death. However, lethal injection doesn't always perform as promised. Despite the constitutionality of lethal injection being upheld by the Supreme Court, the specific application used in states continues to be widely challenged prior to executions, since it's becoming increasingly hard to obtain the drugs that were used in earlier executions. So now states have resorted to experimenting with new drugs and new drug combinations to carry out executions, which have unfortunately resulted in painful, prolonged, and well-botched deaths. So from 1977 to 2009, more than 7% of all lethal injections were botched. So since that measurement, things have only continued to get worse. So the botched execution of Murray Hooper, which took place in late 2022, so just last year, it's just one example of what commonly occurs across the US. His execution team took more than 25 minutes to successfully insert the IV needed to administer the lethal cocktail, which ultimately was placed in his femoral artery. Femoral vein. Hooper was heard asking many times, how long is this going to take? So this incident serves as a painful truth that the execution teams that are being utilized just aren't properly trained. Then in 2016, Dr. Zivit, an esteemed anesthesiologist from Emory University Hospital, began examining autopsy reports of executed inmates and found that the inmates died from pulmonary edema, which essentially means organ failure, meaning they died slowly and at a quick, swift death that we had been led to believe. Now, is this a current problem? No, of course it is, since most states still do utilize lethal injection, and that's really the only option. Well, since it is the primary method of lethal injection, it's really the only option that inmates are given, since, to my recollection, only a few states here in the US offer other methods, like I think Oklahoma and another state offer like firing squad. Now, when it comes to solutions, now as of 2008, the Supreme Court deemed lethal injection, deemed that it doesn't constitute as cruel and unusual punishment. So it's not likely that lethal injection would be banned or even deemed unconstitutional anytime in the near future. So at the minimum, I would say that there needs to be some sort of oversight when these executions take place. So that means at least having properly trained execution teams on site that can properly handle like administering these drugs that are needed to put someone to death. And then using the appropriate cocktail of drugs to ensure a quick, painless death, and not the slow, agonizing deaths that we are seeing these inmates experiencing today. So that was vlog number 3. Thank you for coming and listening to our little discussion.